to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could just remain standing for all our folks in the armed services, emergency services, and also anybody locally who died, especially Ms. Service. Thank you. So thank you all for coming tonight. I was trying to think in my head the last time we had a joint meeting, and I think it was in 2003. I think was the last time. So it's been a few years.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so it was a few years. So each board has a little housekeeping stuff to do in their respective boards. So we're going to let the town board go first, do their call to meeting, and then take care of your stuff. And we have a couple. The village board has a couple items, and then we're going to go into the joint meeting.
Ready? I was instructed to pull this forward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. The only business that we have is squaring away with the dial-a-bus, and the dates will be obvious about why I'm doing it tonight, although normally it would have been held over from a regular meeting. Where Debbie McCabe is retiring as of July the 7th, and we are replacing her with Lori Graziano Rosero. So the changes we're going to make is I'm going to ask the board for a motion when I get to this to hire Lori Graziano Rosero effective July the 7th at the wage, excuse me?
September 1st. Deb is retiring July 7th.
I got it. Okay, well,
Correct,
I'm reading your note wrong here. So excuse me for my mistake here. So it will be September the 1st.
Correct.
Okay, so Lori will be hired effective September the 1st. Her wage would be $20.40. She would be on 1 year probation. I'll ask for a motion to hire Lori Graziano Rosero.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Now, for the next thing, I need an amendment to the salary schedule. I would like to keep Debbie McCabe at her present wage, which is $20.40. Our salary schedule says for a part-timer, it would be $18.58. So I would like to keep Debbie at her present wage. So I'll ask for a motion to amend the salary schedule, making a part-time dial-a-bus driver $20.40.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. So then one more thing, since we did that, I would like to hire Debbie McCabe to the position of part-time driver of the dial-a-bus at the wage of $20.40, beginning on July the 7th. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to do that.
Motion? Yeah, second.
Don't fight now.
Yeah, you got a motion, you got a second.
All right, okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's all.
Two part-time drivers in the summer, or it'd be full-time on September 1st.
Correct. That's all the town business that I have, but I would like to welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Thank God it's a little bit better in here than it is outside, but we're gonna have one heck of a weekend coming up. So I would ask everyone to kind of be careful. My son keeps reminding me I have to be careful, so be careful with the hot weather, the 4th of July activities. turn the microphone over to the esteemed mayor.
Thank you very much. I just have a couple of things on our agenda. The first one is to approve some bills and claims warrant number 2601A for fiscal year 26-27 in the total amount of $28,245.60, of which one of the big ticket items is the contribution to the Independence Day Committee, of which $4,999 is a grant through the county, which we'll get back. So I just need a motion and a second for that.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by trustee Ramus, is there a second? Seconded by trustee Gargiulo. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2 on the agenda is the Village of Highland Falls appointment to the Consolidated Zoning Board of Appeals for the balance of open seat, which is Mr. Joseph Murphy's seat, to expire on December 31st, 2028. It was kind of done a little bit in 2 different ways. We had a little bit of word of mouth, and some of the zoning board members that approached me that somebody was interested. So it was just a phone call to that individual. They were interested, so we saved a few dollars and didn't put an ad out in the paper. For last time we did, we only got 2 folks, and there were 2 openings, so it just worked out. Everybody got the email of the letter saying that he was interested. It's Mr. Joseph Schmidt from Mondale Park, and his resume was attached as well. So I would just need a motion and a second, and if there's any discussion, to move that forward as well. Motion by trustee Gargiulo, is there a second?
Second.
By trustee Carroll, any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you very much. Next item is to appoint the full-time DPW working leader, which is a title change from the civil service, used to be considered a foreman. Interview process went through a couple of the trustees. Full-time DPW working leader Matthew Troy, effective July 2, which is the start of the next pay period with a maximum probation of 52 weeks. For the recommendation of the DPW supervisor Joseph Murphy, a starting rate of $32.2115 per hour. So I need a motion, second, if there's any discussion. Motion by trustee Carroll, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Ramus. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have approve a peddler's permit for Greenlight Networks. Greenlight is the secondary internet provider that the board approved, I want to say maybe 6-8 months ago. Normally in the past, when a peddler's permit came to the village board, they would table it historically, but because we have a contract with this organization and company, and they're providing utility for the Village of Highland Falls residents, I would think we would allow it for 1 week. There's a fee of $500, which they are graciously going to pay. Otherwise, they wouldn't get the permit. So that's why I think it warrants this, because it is a utility being provided from a vendor that we have a contract with. So I would just need a motion and a second, pending their certificate of insurance. And in the packet, there's a picture of the young fella, his general information, all that stuff. We'll get it to the newspaper so they can put it in the paper as well. So I just need a motion, second, and we got it. Motion by trustee Carroll, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Ramus. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And last thing is a little housekeeping. It's authorized mayor, deputy mayor to sign the renewal for Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. This amendment is made to entitle, is made at and entered into as of April 1, 2026, by and between the Village of Highland Falls and the Housing Agency, having its principal offices located at 303 Main Street, Highland Falls, New York, and Joseph E. Manstrini, Inc., having its principal offices located at 57 Phila Street, Saratoga Springs, New York, 12866. Whereas the parties intend this amendment to constitute a mutually agreed amendment of the original agreement and not to exercise any renewal or extensions options contained in the original agreement. Now therefore it is in consideration of the mutual covenants contained herein, the parties agrees as follows. Term 1, Article 3, time and performance of the original agreement is amended to provide that term, which is just a change in term from April 1st, 2026 to the ending of March 31, 2027. No additional renewal right and ratification. So I need a motion and a second approval for that. Motion by trustee Gargiulo, is there a second?
Second.
Ooh. Okay, trustee
I do have a question.
Olivia? Sure.
Is this the same document that's, is this done annually?
Yes.
And I'm just curious why it's an amendment and explicitly not a renewal or an extension.
The only amendment is just the terms of the new contract. So the only amendment is just the time and dates. Everything else is the same. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And just as the supervisor said, welcome. We listed some topics on the agenda, more for a little information of what services the town does provide village residents and what is a consolidated service that the town does have. Some of these were done when I was just a wee lad. Some of them may have been before I was even an egg. So, and it's a good time for the board maybe to have a little discussion if they so wish, maybe some questions. We'll try not to spend too much time on each topic. And if we have to have further discussion, they can bring up with liaisons, and then we'll get to a public comment. So. So just so the public knows, and the supervisor, you can jump in anytime you want. Things that are joint between the town and the village, obviously recreation, planning and zoning boards are consolidated. Sanitation was done, quite some time.
1997.
Okay, so I was 17, so I count for that. And building department, actually, I was on the town board when that came into existence in 2002. Some of these are done through mutual agreements. Some was a dissolve of like the village planning board and it folded into the town planning board, zoning board, same thing. So I know on the village side, we have copies of the agreements and or the recreation commission at one point, there was an actual commission and there was a contract for that as well. Just FYI for residents, in village parks, the village owns the property. Usually 9 out of 10 times the town runs the actual recreation program. There's some sharing of some of the costs sometimes, but predominantly if we own it, we pay for it on the village side, it's a village park. Whereas in the town, if it's a town park, everybody pays towards that A fund and we all get that benefit. So that's for that part. But if we want to go one at a time, whatever the boards, whatever you want to do, we can go one at a time. If there's any questions, if there's nothing, we'll just move right along.
Yeah, I don't remember what we did the last meeting.
Yeah.
However, all of these shared services, I think everyone realizes that everyone in this room, the residents of the town of Highlands, pay for shared services. So whether you're a village resident or if you're a town resident, of those five of them, recreation in particular is a shared service that at this point in time, we probably want to have some sort of a contract. And I don't want to change anything. I just want to put a formal contract down.
Right.
The only thing I can remember is we had this recreation commission. Well, they got kind of out of hand and they were trying to hire and fire. And all of a sudden the town board said, hey, we hire and fire. This citizen recreation commission doesn't. So the bottom line is we dissolved it, the commission. We have remnants of the contract that they worked under. Well, the only thing I can think of that was different, this is back when I think I was supervisor and Aiken Acquaintance was mayor. There was a question about who's going to supply chemicals to the pool. And we decided, okay, you guys, meaning the village, take care of the bathrooms, and the town will take care of the chemicals. It was a handshake agreement. That's why I say we probably ought to have something in writing further the other things that are taking place in the recreation department. Other than that, I don't see anything that needs to be changed in recreation. Does anyone, either board have any comment?
I got a comment.
The senior center. Online on Orange County, the senior center, Highland Falls Village, 15 Drew Avenue, Recreation Department. For the New York Forward Planning that the village submitted. That's online on newyork.gov. The village recently bought and renovated the senior center with assistance through a DASNY grant and a CDBG grant. This is open space to offer regular recreational engagement for the village's aging population, as well as additional space for civic engagement. Additionally, there are several parks and playgrounds in the village offering a range of passive recreational opportunities for children and adults. Who is in charge of this building?
The village owns it, so.
So does the recreation department have any involvement in this building?
I guess it's a question for your operational plan, but,
I mean, is it,
if you want to say it's a recreational place for seniors, it's,
well, no, on here, it's basically saying it's more than just for seniors if it's for the village.
yeah,
So-
like, we're having a meeting here tonight. So, there's all
I'm
ages.
saying in the morning, the Highlanders use it, at night, the village uses it once every 2 weeks. Is there anywhere the recreation department has access to the building to be able to, it's about to be 103 degrees. It would be good to be able to have the kids meet somewhere since everybody's in town and on holiday, instead of just sitting inside now in the air conditioning. I mean, this is a public building funded by taxpayers. I think we can always have the seniors as priority, but I think we could utilize the building a little more in the downtime if recreation is involved somehow.
I don't have an issue with what you're saying. In the past, it's been opened up as a cooling center. I think there's been different festivities or events here. I'm sure I'll be corrected, that there was a dance or a recreation put on a dance here, or maybe another organization put on a dance here. So it does happen. If you want to do something on a regular basis, I think that could be something that we could talk about in this contract. I don't necessarily have any issues with it, as long as it meets the calendar timeline of other things that are getting planned here, and then we would just have to talk about insurance, and I think that'd be it.
Well, it's good, because I mean, the town pays the center. Even they could utilize the space if they're having big events. I mean, I just think we could use this building a little more. So,
Was, at one point, I believe there was some discussion or is there not a certain type of regulation that was tied to it being senior usage?
Yeah, so the building was originally purchased with a grant, and barring the legal language, its primary use is for a senior center. But there is times and if you were to percentage out the time, so 75% of the time is being used for seniors, the other 25% of the time can be used for what I believe Councilmember Leahy is saying. So, which does happen. We have meetings here. We had a meeting here for the water project. I mean, there's several different organizations that use this building. So I think that's happening. I don't know if Councilmember Leahy wants to maybe formalize it a little bit, which may be something we have to talk about, and I'm sure the attorneys might get involved, just to make sure we're using the right language. it's, here's the grant, it's used to purchase the building. Yes, I hope that was a little bit of a long.
I guess the other question would be, you stated that the town provides funds for the center now. How much is that in the budget? of the town fund?
If I could correct that statement, I think he's talking about the center, the down on Main Street.
Right, and how much does the town provide for that right now?
I don't, offhand, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. It's something we'll discuss when we discuss it. I'm just wondering how much money is there. And then the only other quick thing would be, I mean, if we look at, our shared service agreement, we go to that last page, I think we can use that as a template as far as setting up the terms of agreement, 5-year to date renewals, et cetera, et cetera. It's already written, so I think that'd be a big plus for us. Once we solidify.
I think if we're gonna open up that discussion about the money that's allocated to the center for senior activities, I think we'll open up that discussion to say that would agree to what it is to the senior center. Moving forward, I remember having practices here in the Orange County Office of Aging, will be actually funded, so we're paying for somebody to be director here. So with that money, it might negate the center altogether, and that would be a nice thing too. So in fact, also involve senior activities here. The way I understood it initially was that when we did recreational activities, they had to be sponsored by a senior club. That's how it was originally explained to me, but that's not right. But I have no problem with revamping. I would love to see all the way we're having this place really used as a senior center it should be, and sponsoring activities for them. I think that would be fantastic. I think the number is about 18,000 is allocated to the center. And I don't know whether that's for the rent for the center, but I'm just saying, if you want to have that conversation.
Well, I'm not trying to take money out of the centers.
No, I think it would be
What they
fantastic
do
to
is
understand.
a good thing, but if they're just having a night to talk, sit in a circle and talk,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they should be able to call.
I think we gotta clarify something. Previously, I was some years ago liaison to the recreation and the seniors. At some point, can everybody hear me?
You just gotta turn it on.
All right.
Push me up. There you go. Hold it down. Close church me.
You're lying. We were trained, but we were not up to the standards. Thank you.
But what I'm saying is, there was an evolution here. So we had the senior center as a entity that was purchased at one time by the grant, right? That is a building. And then we talked about the center as a nonprofit organization contracted by the town to do senior programs, i.e. bus trips and other things. So that's on the budget line. Now, there was some discussion at one time to move the recreation director in the building here and run those programs consistently out of here. We had a lot of ups and downs with that, and the reality is it didn't happen. And so here we are. A lot of good discussion, but I don't think we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the center is doing great things for seniors. The senior center has been renovated, looks great. So this discussion is now going to evolve to what things look like going forward. I think we just got to clarify the language right there. So it's not 18,000 that they got. It's probably more closer to 5 or something like that to do programs and bus trips and so forth and so on.
I think if we go back to when the village first acquired this building, it was through a grant through community development, if I remember right. And rules were put in there. It had to be seniors only. That's it. Nothing else. Seniors only. To his credit, the mayor, Joe, kept pushing the envelope. He would have a different kind of a meeting here. And I think no one had a problem with that, including the county. So we got to the point now, look at right now, this isn't seniors only. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing that he pushed the envelope. He got to the point where we can basically use this for anything, am I pretty much right, Mr. Mayor?
I mean, I don't, as long as it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I
as
don't.
far as the grant goes, the grant said seniors only, that's it. And if you do that, we're gonna take it away from you, and you're gonna have to pay us back for the grant. That's the way it was when we first had this, and we were really strict about it. And I say we, I had nothing to do with it, as far as being the town supervisor. But little by little, we got to the point where this building gets a great use. And the things that the village does in here, it's good. You can't just have this building twice a week or not even that, twice a month, have the seniors just meet here, that's it, done, finished. It's a good thing that happened. So that's my 2 cents.
I have another comment about recreation. Like you said before, the village owns it, we run it. Is there any common ground when the Little League field was built? The recreation department was not involved at all. So I think the recreation department running the field, there should be some type of written thing. If we're gonna run the program and you're building a new field and doing different additions, I think the town recreation department should have been involved in that.
Okay, I don't know if that's entirely accurate. I would want to talk to my engineer, because that was a little bit of an overlap from the last administration to this one. So I would want to confirm that. But at the end of the day also, for that particular project, because it was a FEMA project, I know that there's a little bit of regulation of what we can put back there and what we can't put back there. I know the field looks like it looks fantastic, but, other than the fencing that was put in place, and maybe some minor adjustments to the field itself, I don't know how much it's changed as, a baseball field or a Little League field. So, I could get that information for you and get it back to you.
Those minor adjustments costed tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, FEMA money.
We're responsible taxpayers. It doesn't matter if you're paying or I'm paying or if the chief's paying.
Well,
We should be responsible with the money.
I think we were responsible with the money, so I don't know what that comment's about, but I appreciate that. I don't know where the chief is, so thanks for coming, but if you do want to pay, we'll take it. Did you hear folks have anything else?
Anything else on this side?
If I talk about any one of them, everybody's gonna be here till midnight, so.
You're saving it?
You're doing a good job so far.
Bob told me-
Anybody else on
Can we ask?
Ty? Recreation?
Just on recreation, we're gonna go.
Just understand with the town, I'll say this much. So I was on the planning board when we got the new law for the vehicle parklands. And we had a project down on my dog park, which used to be called Linwood Homes, I think, or something like that. Then it's called MRS. The owner's name was Michael Jervis. He was in England when I talked to him. Without being required by that law, he gave the town $36,000, which was used for the dog park and a few other things. So I'll pat myself on the back at least a little bit for that one. But that park is an agreement with Bear Mountain, they own it. And that's how come we can't have a regulation, only town residents can use it. Same thing with my dog park. I see stuff on Facebook about my dog park, about how it looks or whatever. My dog park was Scenic Hudson. Scenic Hudson, call what you want, Kyle, whatever. They don't pay anything, as far as what I know. Bob was involved with transferring it over to the Palisades Interstate Park Commission. So right now you go down there, it's a passive park. The school and the town and the county gets $45,000 a year in taxes out of that park. Bear Mountain pays on all their vacant land. So what I'm leading into is the town of Highlands does not own anything really to Patriot, Florida. Those two parks are leased, so we don't really own any fields or anything like that. And I just wanted people to know that we do the best we can with the resources. We're heavily dependent on the village and on the school. Field, all the soccer programs up at the high school. We don't own anything. We just lease the Minot Park and, Brooks.
So, quick question, Rich. You may not answer it, if not, we'll discuss it. Rec and park fees are in the town, zoning, correct?
I think some.
Well, okay, perfect. We don't know, but if they.
People parklands,
Right, so like for subdivision and things like that, there is probably a certain number that gets paid, and I don't know, it's just a question.
Yeah.
If you are getting any money like that, where it gets spent, and we can discuss that.
no, that's a good question. I brought that up in the past, not to put Kelly on the spot. I don't know how much money is in that fund right now in town. I think Bob used a bit of money last year to plant some trees down by the school plant. Came out of that fund for the most part. So, like I openly said, that we don't really own anything, but Minot Park, they don't bother us, Fairmount lets us do what we want within reason. I've heard people looking to say, well, we should have a marina and have people come in with their motorboats. Those people will be us. It'll be people from somewhere else enjoying it. It'll turn it into a mecca for people in the area, not us. Right now, with Bear Mountain, we cannot tell people that you can't use it if you're not putting it around. So it works out well. I know Peter during COVID, old people went down and hung out at nighttime, you can kayak. So to answer your question, I don't know how much is in that fund, but it would be nice to be able to come up with a way to put it towards something. Like I just said, we planted a few trees, we don't really own anything except the Patriot Garden.
And you said a great word. And I think if we went that route instead of like a boat dock or power boats, and we spoke with maybe the idea about that, maybe that's something that we could look into in the future.
That sort of thing is in our contract that we will not do that.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Might be a good time to send out yourself. Just kidding, I know his answer. So the next I had on there was just planning and zoning, which are pretty self-explanatory. I know they each meet once a month. I think routinely at both board meetings, we have members show up and they are residents of the community too. Both the town and the village get to appoint folks on those respective boards. And I believe it's when they either resign or they come to their term, they don't want to run again, it varies who gets appointed by the year.
Well, the nice thing and strange thing about it is, all right, it's the zoning board, it's the town's turn to appoint somebody. Well, that person doesn't have to be from the village or the town. Whoever the right person is who we appoint. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the village appoints all village people,
Right.
or the town appoints all town people. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That is good.
You just made an excellent point with JoJo Schmidt out there, who I know he's been interested in local things for a long time. And so those boards, town operated, but the village takes a turn and the town takes a turn. I would just like to let people know, the village of Highland Falls is so unique in our town in that the population within the town, the village has double the population of what the town outside the village has. The village is being very well represented by all these boards, by the rules we have in place, and by the population demographics.
And both websites, whether you go to the village one or the town, has the meeting times and usually the members. And sometimes there might be a little overlap of new membership that gets put on the board, like the new member we had tonight. We'll probably have that by tomorrow or Wednesday. But I urge folks to go to either website to get information about these boards when they meet. They usually put out an agenda, go to the meetings, they have public hearings on different projects, they have different, especially the planning board, there's a lot going on. I was at a planning board meeting, I think, last month, and there's a lot of stuff going at those meetings, and the zoning board meets too, and they go over different projects that get to that point from planning to zoning that may have to go back to planning. And just so everybody knows, the planning board is basically what it says. It's a developer comes to the community, they take the code, they want to put something up or build something, and they have to go to the building department, and it triggers whether or not they go to the planning board, and the planning board reviews it, they go through engineers, they go through attorneys, they go through that whole process. If it's something in the code that doesn't meet with the project but makes sense, or it's something that they want to try to change, they go to, that's what triggers that zoning board. If there's a variance that the zoning board looks at the law, maybe a simple example is if you and your neighbor, are close to the property line, your neighbor wants to put up a fence, and maybe it encroaches a foot over the line and you don't care, it's fine, they've got little kids, you don't, whatever. You would have to go to the zoning board to be able to build that fence a foot over on the line. So just as a small example of what they do. I don't know if either board has anything on that. Okay. The next one was sanitation. And you said, when was it, Councilman?
Joe D'Onofrio was both supervisor and mayor when that happened. Back when we had the flood in 96 or 97.
Okay.
We had that winter storm flood, he had both positions at the same time.
So
97.
Huh?
It was 97.
So interestingly enough, there's no contract or anything that I know of. It's just a town service that's provided municipally, meaning not privatized by a different company like, what's the sanitation?
Deep Sparrow?
Yeah, Dick Sparrow, who used to do it, I know that. So it's specifically a program that's run strictly by the town. Town DPW and/or sanitation members collect the trash, depending on what end of town you live on, from Montgomery. Vice versa, they put out that schedule for recyclables, regular trash, bulk pickup items, which is a good time for me to say about bulk pickup items. Please try to adhere to the rules and regulations of the bulk pickup items. I drove around today already, even on the way here. I feel bad for those folks that have to go do that job, because I don't think there are some folks, and I know Councilmember Sullivan may make a comment on this, there are some notorious folks.
It'll be a tight one.
Yeah, that just don't care. It's not about following the rules, they just don't care. So, again, I urge you folks, even if it's your neighbor, actually I strike that. Don't engage your neighbor if they have a pile of stuff out there, but just understand that, go to the website, make the call to the sanitation department. There is a process, there is a schedule you have to get on to get those items picked up. But that doesn't mean if you've done a schedule July 20th, you put everything out on July 2. So it sits out there for 3 weeks. Try to have a little common sense and, friendly neighborhood type of stuff. So I don't know. What has any comments on that?
I'm convinced, looking at my assignment for sanitation and building, the Bob Pussy does not like me for assigning both of those to me. Anyway, sorry about that.
That's okay.
You know,
At least you know it now.
sanitation. Here, a couple of years ago, I think his name was either Jim or John Martin, talked about the demographics when you're doing your whole zoning change. He had a lot of important things I think people should remember. One of them was he talked about, I was amazed by this, Highland Falls is almost 60% not owner occupied. That's a lot of landlords. And I can tell you behind town hall, we have on camera a white pickup truck that belonged to a local firm, I'm not gonna say what it was, depositing a couch down there at a place, it's 270 Main Street. We write that guy pretty regularly, we're having stuff back there, he has a corridor to get to Highland Falls. So I am convinced there's exterior garbage being deposited on the high sidewalks in Highland Falls. There's certain places where I can prove it, and we have some addresses. Last year, there was an address at the north end of town that had 17 bulk pickups. Each one involved 4 mattresses or more for a 3-bedroom place, okay? So that's how come I get a little bit aggressive about it. So I had the building department, and when Tiffany was there, along with Gabby and Philip, working on the bulk pickup list. And when the bulk list was submitted, if you weren't on it, you were gonna get a ticket from Philip. That really helped a lot. Since Tiffany is left, we have Lindsay now, she's new. We have to up the game on that a little bit. And we have it in the building, the town's regulations, 4 items is how we say it. You have 2 mattresses and a desk and a couple other things, don't do that. I have some of the sanitation and sending me pictures of private places that have enough to pull a 20-yard roll off. If they don't fall off, they just put it out and expect it to be picked up. And the majority of them are landlords that are not living here. So that's how come we've done the best we can to try and address it, because it got out of control. I know it's uncomfortable for some people, It's a task that I don't really enjoy because I spend my spare time driving on Highland Falls looking at garbage piles, okay? So, that's about all I have to say about that.
Rich, do you think being that it's saying landlord owned property, you think that's when people are moving out and they just put everything
It's
down?
more consistent. I'm not gonna get myself in trouble saying anything. There's a place up in the middle of town here, we're gonna go alongside the house right now. There's enough bulk for the next 2 months that they put out 16 things every week. So to put this stuff out without calling, they're gonna pick it up, they'll get upset, they'll send me a picture, I'll tell Phil, they'll go away to pick it. And we won't know how long it takes by the time it actually goes to court, anything's really done about it. I'm frustrating these people, but we're doing the best we can to try and get a handle on it. Not that Port Montgomery doesn't have the problem, but the predominance of it is in Highland Falls. I believe it has to do with vacant landlords, not living here.
Right, and that's why I was just asking the question, only because I know we're gonna be working on it, and registry and stuff like that, short-term rentals, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why that could be one of the things that we'll discuss on our, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, is there is there a fine schedule?
I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what it is, and I've said that we had that meeting last year. I don't mean to go on, forgive me for going on. The village's sanitation code predates public pickup. So in the village's code, if you look at it, they'll talk about having steel garbage cans. None of those things are even really supposed to be permitted anymore. I'm not telling you need to update it.
Oh, it
I'm
sounds like I do.
saying, I'm telling you that the regulations that we give our guys who pick up the garbage with are contrary to the village code, which was back in like 1993 or something like that. So when you and Melina came here a year ago, we were or something, I said roll out. So I'm not saying you need to update it right now, I'm just saying it's in contrast to what we enforce. For things, you have a bundle that big of brush or whatever, and a couple of mattresses and whatnot, I don't think it's unreasonable, and we'll pick it up every week. I almost think if you have 4 mattresses, that should probably be something you're about to do 6 times a year. What's reasonable?
Yeah.
Before you say to a homeowner, you gotta rent a private roll-off to clean your house out,
Yeah. Can you just make a note? That it sounds like we need to do that, because I was 13 when those rules came out.
Going back a ways on garbage, this is back in the days when we had a company called Di Casparo, we had a company called Chatino, and they picked up our garbage. We did not have a sanitation department. So we had a lot of trouble with those companies. And we decided, I think we better get the town, do with the garbage department, we bought trucks, we did the whole thing. That worked out real fine, until we decided, wow, we're spending a lot of money on this. Let's see what it would cost us to get a contractor in. Well, we looked at it, talking millions. So we decided, no, we're not playing with millions when we're doing this garbage business. Now, there are other towns that do it differently, and God forbid we do it like Stony Point does. They all have private contractors. You could live in house A and you've got so-and-so taking care of your garbage, and house B has got another contractor in it. I don't want to ever see that here in town, but there are other ways. I really think our sanitation department does a great job. It's amazing what they pick up sometimes and what they have to do, and some of this trash that's just scattered all over, and they do most of the time go pick it up individually. They do a hell of a job.
Yeah, I agree with that, and both DPWs, I see out there, I know the sanitation and DPW, there's some overlap there, but both DPWs, they're always working together in that sense for that stuff. And I know it was either last year or the year before, I think it was last year, and I was actually talking to Trustee Olivia on the way down. We were outside of Village Hall, and I said, a year ago, we had this same similar situation, and we saw some homes, as Councilmember Sullivan mentioned, that were just notorious. I mean, it was just every week or every 2 weeks. It was the same amount. Like the houses aren't even that big. I don't even know how you could have that much stuff. And so even DPW, I mean, we at one point went and got a dumpster just because it was just, I mean, my two main concerns, me personally, is always Main Street and Mountain Avenue. And, those are the thoroughfares. So, not to say that the other streets are not important, but for me, if you're coming into the community, those are usually the streets you're going to use. So, and both DPWs were very responsive, and just because we had to just play catch up. I've never seen so much stuff in my life. And even as we were walking down here, I mean, there's a property around Oak Park right now, and the property on Schneider Avenue, and you're like, how long were you collecting all this stuff to put it all out in one shot?
Rose Park was like about 10 times last year.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't know if they're, going to store, going collecting, buying it there and bringing it here and then just putting it out front. I don't know what to do. So I think we should probably revamp the rules and regs for garbage. I'm fine with that, and try to, if you guys have any, maybe we could just fold them in.
I'll forward you the thing that I shared with you and Melina a year ago at Town Hall when we met. I have all that in there. I didn't make any recommendation, just outlined what's
Yeah.
there. And my lawyer's looking at me, so I gotta be careful. On the adjudication side, I'm not gonna say where, we have one particular property, you've had public hearings on and whatnot, where after 2 years, it went from being civil to criminal, where they have to start almost all over again. It takes a lot of work to do. People are offered a lot of protections. Like, I don't live somewhere where people are just willing to have a thing yard. It's a shame we have to do that, but we do.
You mentioned DPW a couple of times, and this is slightly off the track, but I understand the village is looking into getting a vacuum truck.
Oh, we're good.
Okay, if there's anything the town can do to help support getting the money for it, just let us know.
Yeah, you can write us a check if you want.
I wasn't exactly talking about that.
Yeah.
There's something called grant,
So-
He's not a salesman.
So we got a grant. We got a grant for up to it's 75% with a maximum of 400,000. So the first truck we saw, which the board approved, was $471,000, but it didn't have a jetter, which is a jet line that pushes water through pipes. So we were going to have to get a tow behind to go with it, but I couldn't use the grant to help pay for the tow behind. So we threw that one out. So we went to 2 other companies, and we found a truck for a total of $519,000. On the first truck, we weren't getting the full amount of $400,000. We were only getting $351,200 to cover part of the grant, because it goes up to $400,000. So in order to maximize the grant, we went to a different truck that has everything on it. So it's a back truck, it's a jetter, and it'll have a camera. And it actually will be less for us because it has everything in one truck. Instead, on the first scenario I had, the village was gonna have to put up $126,000. On this, we only have to put up $119,000. So we're getting more truck, it'll have more availability and accessibility on it. So, as soon as we get it, I believe I signed the move forward, and then the board will approve on July 20. But we get the full amount from the grant, which is good, which is what we wanted to do. So, whatever you guys want to do, you might want to talk amongst yourselves. But we could pass. I did bring a hat. The chief's got his hat in the car. We can pass it around too. Got to. But yeah, we're moving forward with that truck anyway, because we have more need for it in the village. And as we start trying to do some of our own work here, especially like replacing water line when we need to, that's going to be a great help to us. Right now the county approved for emergency work is TAM, great company. The folks always come down here. I know the town uses them, we use them, a lot of municipalities use them. They're a great company, but they are not cheap.
That's right.
They are expensive, they are thorough, and they do a good job, but they are not cheap. So, and so that's where the back truck is. We're hoping to cut into a little, my hope is to reduce those costs by at least 50%. So that's the goal. Maybe we'll do more, but I'm trying to be conservative and say 50%. And then if the town needs it, we share stuff now. I don't foresee an issue. The whole crew is gonna be trained on it. So when the folks that come down here with the truck, the whole DPW crew is gonna be trained on it, and I think 2 members from DRI. So, I want everybody to know how to use it. And then it comes with some training if we need it, so it's always available. But more importantly for us, the other truck had the camera, which is very good. It's very good. So just so you folks know, and the community knows. So, yeah, it was a good grant. I wasn't 100%
When we
sure.
get to that training, let us know and see if we can send 1 or 2.
Absolutely. That's no problem. That's completely no problem, yeah.
Before we move on from sanitation,
Yes.
the second large hurdle when it comes to the sanitation is the residents leaving the garbage cans on the sidewalks or at the street for long after pickup is supposed to be, brought back in. It really creates it's really a hazard for pedestrian travel throughout the village. Trying to walk with young kids or strollers or groceries or even just our elderly walking on the sidewalks is really a significant task. There are some areas that are really bad where the trash cans literally never leave the sidewalks. And it's just really disheartening thing for me to see. It is an inconvenience for me myself. I'm only 2 minutes from Village Hall, so I walk daily, and there are just between my street and the end of Johnson Mountain Avenue, Main Street, there's about 13 to 16 garbage cans that are on the sidewalk every single day. So I've spoke on it several different times, long before I even made it to this position here. And I'm still not really firm on any kind of solution for that issue. So
I'll bet you the majority of them have been written. You have a neighbor, I'm not gonna say his name, 16 Schneider Avenue. Last time I was in Andy's, he bought me a cup of coffee and told me he'd like to see my picture on a carton of milk. Okay, it's been written so many times, so we're at it.
For fame or missing? For fame or to be missing?
Been missing
Oh
person.
my gosh.
So since there are violations that are going out for the bulk garbage and for the cans being on the sidewalks, what kind of response are you seeing from that? Are people paying violations, or how exactly is that?
I almost have to go to Kelly or Justin. I don't see that part of it. They're by the time they go to court, I don't really know what the fines are, how many are actually being paid. I don't know.
And maybe we could tighten that up too when we start looking at our rules and regs for garbage. But let's make sure we make a note to address it, even if it's something on the books now that we change it.
Okay, well, I know in our code, the police department, the building department, and also our DPW superintendent all have authority written in the code to enforce those regulations. So it's something that definitely needs to be high priority, in my opinion.
Great, you guys are before we move to the next part, I just want to make a quick comment. I know we have both police chiefs here, town, village. I know we have both town attorneys and village attorney, Elise and Justin, and the clerks, Drew Patterson, who was elected, and Heidi Johnson, who's appointed and approved by the board. And I forgot at the last meeting, not to take away from the town clerk, but the village clerk got an award. What did you get an award for?
Honor roll.
She got an honor roll award, so I forgot to mention it at the last meeting, so she could use a little round of applause for that. She probably could get another award that I should probably give her for the whirlwind I create when I'm in village hall, so, I think, and the rest of the staff, so I know. Thank you for that. As I'm sure the town clerk's office does, I'm going there and they're always working, so I just wanted to give a shout out to that. Yes, sir.
So,
Where are we moving to?
no, we're still in the building.
I didn't go there. You were already ready.
You
You don't even have your new balance. And then the last quick thing, because I'm waiting to get to this. The last thing I wanted to say is we just got this email today for National Night Out is on August 4th. It'll be on West Point Highway. I think it starts at 5 to 8. I was talking to the chief about a potential dunking booth, which we may have, and if you could, maybe, I won't put the supervisor on the spot, but any elected official in this community, if you want to try to raise some money for a local organization.
I'll donate money if you don't.
Yeah, I know. I knew that was coming. So I'll probably make myself available.
This restaurant's open on Tuesday night, so.
Yeah. So, but that August 4th, so it's a nice event. And anyway, Senator Skoufis, we got $10,000 for National Night Out for a grant. So I think that's, so we should have plenty of stuff. Last but not least is the building department. And again, this was just some general background. The office is in Town Hall. They take care of both building inspection and code enforcement. The agreement was made June 1st, 2002, between the town and the village. And there is I think it's a 5-page.
Were you on the town board then, Jim?
I got elected in 2002,
Okay.
so I came on in 2003. Yeah, I wasn't on the board.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, I ran with Supervisor Lipson, so that's kind of fun. Here we are.
There we are.
So, it's about a 5-page document, actually, in memoriam here, Supervisor Murphy, Thomas Murphy signed it with, former Mayor Al Bolton. So, that was good. But, anyway, it's open for the board now, for anything. And so the only thing I want to just quick say is, first of all, depending on what social media platform you're on, which I've made this comment several times, every time I can only speak for myself, but I do know some other board members, whenever we call the building inspector, which is Mr. Hamwell, he's always receptive. Emails are returned, phone calls are picked up, phone calls are answered. So that open line of communication, we meet, I want to say regularly, but it's as needed whenever I give a call or he pops up. So that all happens. I already have like too many ums. So I don't want that perception to be out in the public like there's no communication with that department. It is a town department that's run by the town. There is a contract, and there's very little operational say on the, this is just, again, pedigree stuff. Very little operational direction from the village board. It's a town function. And so where Justin, your attorney, has heard me say this 1,000 times. So sometimes where I get a little frustrated is that, and even some of my board members, we nicely lock horns sometimes. As a town function, we all pay for it. So what does that mean? It means village residents and town residents pay for this function. And so specifically in the contract, it says the town bears all the costs. And that's important to me. It's always important to me, especially when we're talking about code enforcement and building inspector. So that's my only thing. That's happening now. And that's where I like to keep it if it's going to be that type of joint project. So that was my kind of 2 cents. And it's pretty explicit. It's on the last page, number 12. So that's always going to be a bone of contention to me to make sure that that's always happening. I'm not saying it's not happening. I want to clear that up. But that's always going to be a thing for me. You know, if something's going to be a consolidated service, then it's got to come from that A fund, right? The town has an A and B fund. And so that A fund is everybody. That's that town bill we all get in January. So that's important to me anyway. So that's all I have. I don't know which side wants to go first or wants to talk about it. I know, Mr. Sullivan, you are ready to go, so
So I think the people are probably ready for somebody else to talk. I'll give them a chance to do something.
and I know, and so one other quick thing. I know during our budget time, You know, we had some folks, we had some residents, we had some board members, we talked about it. And I had to clear that up once or twice. You know, our fiscal year starts June 1. The town's fiscal year starts January 1. So, you know, we had discussed it at budget meetings, the potential for us to look at our own building department or code enforcement officer, or our department, you know, office. It was that way prior to 2002. And in order to do that, we put some numbers in the budget. Didn't mean that we were going to do anything. It didn't affect taxation at all. It's if we wanted to do something, if we felt that we needed to, or that was the direction of the public, or that's the direction of the board. You know, there's 5 members on this board, just like there's 5 members on the town board. So we put that in there. To date, you know, our fiscal year just started this month. We haven't even had the discussion really about creating our own. We're going back to it. But in order for us to even do it, if we wanted to have that discussion, we would need to have that line item in the budget. If nothing happens, it's a total wash. And it did not affect taxation whatsoever, despite what you read on whichever social media page you like to fancy or frequent. So I just wanted to clear that up.
I'd like to just correct something, if that's the right word for that. You said.
You can always
You kept saying that it's a town function. It's no different than any of the 5 functions here. It is a town village function. You may not appoint the building inspector, but everything that's done out of that office, matter of fact, what is it, 80% of the things that he does is in the village. So it's not a town function, it's a town village function. Where he has a problem though, is he has to go by your zoning and town zoning. So somehow one day we may get that all put together, but not tomorrow. Yes, you were gonna say.
No, just a little history behind it. Like I said, I've already gone too much. Go back to Henry Woodruff, who retired, I believe, about the time Seth was hired, which was about 2 years before it became combined. Seth was in the village of Highlands, Seth Armstrong. He was your building inspector. The town, which only did corporate Montgomery at that time, the B fund, all what you want, they did the village, and Mary Theresa Hanson part-time. And so it became a goal to combine, that was one of the first things we combined, I believe, with the building department. It revolved around Seth. So Seth became the full-time inspector, Mary Theresa retired, Seth was there, he needed some help, he got some help from John Hager. John Hager scored 100 on the test. The supervisor at that time was very impressed by that, swapped positions, made Seth number 2, John Hager became number 1. Seth went on his way in a happy manner, but he's going his way. And then since then, we had Larry Marshall, who was I think he's the highway superintendent out in town, Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had Bruce Swirlinger. And since then, I can't tell you how many times I've had to write on Indeed to get somebody non-competitive because there are none to choose from. We went off of the list trying to go full-time. We had one had an Article 78, and I forget the other one's deal. And then we went with part-time and interviewed a bunch of people. I think we had 27 on the list. We interviewed a bunch of them, and we got one, let me think, there was one guy that because the county's granting a dispensation, there's no people to choose from, they made him full-time in Newburgh. We lost him. Ken something was his name, all right? Then we had a gal that we hired that didn't show up like on the second day. That was the end of that one. We had John Zajac for a while. He was with us for a month, and then he quit. And then we have a guy you may not have seen him, James Bertolins is his name. He's out there doing fire inspections. I think people want to see his picture on the parking lot too, but he's doing the job as well as operating permits. Now, you don't see him, but he's doing that 20 hours a week. He's willing to go full-time at the end of this year if there's a need for it. When Bruce was here, we had a part-time secretary. She's a beautiful lady. I think it was Mrs. Lewis was her name. She was only 20 hours a week. She retired, and we now have Gabby there who has an $8,000 digitizer. Anything you want to do with master plans, she does all that, okay? She has a $10,000, whatever it costs to be part of IPS program that we use for the building department. We have two vehicles, a pickup truck and also a police car that are used by the building department. So there's a lot of resources going into this, and I try not to get too passionate about it. With Philip Hannawall, like the building inspector is the most hated person in America. Our chief gets a lot of respect because he's a police chief. Philip does not get that kind of respect, I can tell you. So I have to have his back, at least a little bit. He's got a tough job, and I have to have his back. And that puts me in an uncomfortable position sometimes. So we have a part-timer, one to go full-time, a full-timer, as well as a full-time secretary. So when Eddie Dunn comes in for the planning board stuff, it's there. By the way, she's a notary. So it's organized and it's there. So you may not see it up there on the streets when you're frustrated with Philip, but the building department has pretty good structure to it. And it's the best I can do over the last 8 years, the best I can do. And I'm a certified code enforcement officer. Obviously, I can't practice it now.
No, I think when we originally talked about it, we actually budgeted it into the budget. Well, he was very accurate, very responsive, very good. I think we were looking at like direct revenue capture, we're looking at responsiveness to village priorities, prioritizing village-specific codes and concerns. Vacant property, property enforcement would be something that we really do. And just stronger code enforcement and faster permit process. Those are the things that we talked about, because we were looking at where the revenue going from, these things that go out. Again, it's been discussed that how long does it take to go to court, to go to court, so as long as actually the process, and that is something that we brought into discussion. So I do echo Jim saying it had nothing to do with,
This is business, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
We're doing people's business.
Yeah,
That's no
exactly.
problem.
So those are the considerations that I actually brought up, that I was wondering if I was to say, hey, why don't we look at this new, why don't we look at really visiting time on the building department? So those are a couple of key things that I still, I'm open to discussion.
Does anybody have any else?
My question is on the building department orientation, because that's exactly what I was going to say as well. It's very difficult to get anybody in that building department, not only this building, any building department.
Into the microphone so we can all hear, please.
Very difficult to get anybody
Yeah.
to work in the building department, to work in many municipalities, and it is one of the toughest jobs. Phil and Gabby are phenomenal. I know you lost more people than you can count. It obviously just did. It's good to hear, and hopefully you guys will see when you're doing your next budget, if you could get that part-time, full-time position, because I believe when we lost Ken Betts, he could have been a good fit for the village.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It's open to public comment. Just please adhere to the guidelines if you want, and just come up, just village, or Montgomery, wherever. Yeah, come on down.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Irby. I was a resident of Highland Falls up until last week, 17 Regina Road, right next to Pete Carroll, until he kicked me out. Just kidding. We had a great connection relationship. Now I live in Fort Montgomery, so at 28 St. Mark's Place. So my question is about how paving works in Fort Montgomery. And honestly, I don't exactly know. That's why I want to come tonight to learn more. The situation at the end of our road, so we're at the end of the cul-de-sac. And I would say the conditions there are less than ideal. There's a lot of potholes, there's a lot of loose gravel. We have 4 children, so 11, 9, 8, and 4. Our neighbors, the other family in the cul-de-sac has 3 children, 9, 8, and 4. It's great. Our kids love riding their bikes back there. It's been a great week in Fort Montgomery so far. But yeah, I just want to inquire about how paving works, if there's an opportunity for residents to advocate for paving to happen. one example of the conditions. So yesterday, neighbor's daughter Eleanor, she's 9, was riding her bike, hit one of the mini potholes, fell on the ground, got up, scrapes on her elbows and knees, gravel in there. And look, I get it. Like I said, I have 4 kids. They fall, they get back up. She's fine. But I think that something like that could be prevented with some maintenance back there. And I don't know what the conditions of the other roads are. Like I said, I'm a new resident. So my question is twofold. One, how does that process work? How can I learn more about that? And what are the opportunities for me as a resident to advocate for paving of the roads? So this is really for the town.
Well, you actually already advocated for paving on your particular area there. I have talked to the highway superintendent. He's aware of the potholes, aware of that it needs paving. I couldn't nail him down as to when it would be paved, but it is in his sights.
Okay, great. Yeah, I appreciate that, and thanks for your response by email. I just wanted to bring it up to the board.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
About 10 years ago, that cul-de-sac was enhanced. Maybe by the house that you're living in, the builder of the house made that bigger back there, and maybe some of the paving didn't come up, I don't know, but that was enhanced about 10 years ago by a private contractor to meet the conditions of the town, so obviously it needs some attention.
Right, and I'll just say really quickly, Brian Sakanik, the one who sold us the house, he had mentioned that the requirement for him was to implement binding, which they did. And I think the assumption was that it would be paved after that, and so, hopefully sometime soon. So I really
Now that you
appreciate
spoke, it probably will be, so.
it. Thank you.
No, go, you go.
Joyce, 900 Road, Idaho Falls. I just have a question, and I try to be diplomatic as I can. We had recycling pickup today. Truck has to pass our house, pick up the end of the street, and pass the can again, pick up the can before it goes out on Main Street. Our can is a little bit.
What's the address?
9 Riverview Road. And this has happened more than once. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up.
Hi, everybody. Jennifer Ryan, 58 River. I just want to thank you guys for coming together tonight. I've learned so much, and I want to encourage or ask if y'all can make this a regular thing, like maybe once a year. To consider, I just wanted to provide that feedback.
Hello, everybody. Olga Henderson on York Park. Thank you for getting together so I can have this message for everybody all at once. I'm here to talk to you very briefly about closing out Highlands Together We Decide on behalf of the project teams and the volunteers who worked to bring that project to closure. But in case people don't know, we had over 300 residents vote on prioritizing projects, and those projects were outdoor adventure, transportation and mobility, and community flood resilience. So I want to thank everybody who responded to all of our surveys, our meetings, our events, and the residents who actually suggested these projects and voted on them. I want to thank our project team, Roxana Bartolome, and Erica Affronti, and Sally George for her inspiration and her occasional pep talks. I want to thank especially, of course, our town council member, Nancy Sporbert, and village trustee Jen Bartulo, who were on our steering committee and stepped up when needed. So we really couldn't have done any of this work without everybody's help.
But what I really want to point out is that we're entering into a nice, new, exciting phase. We're rebranding the project, calling it Highlands Together We Build. And the reason we're doing that is because there's new grant monies available to help make these projects that were voted on a reality. The projects really just, they need to have fallen within the ballot of the 8 projects that were suggested. And there has to be a small team that comes around the project and applies for the grant. So it's a wonderful opportunity. It's not just a tiny little bit of money. It's a pretty decent amount of money to turn these projects into reality. And I just want to mention that we have 2 teams that have already formed, one around climate, flood resilience, and one around transportation that are gearing up to apply for those grants. So if somebody wants to take on the outdoors project or any of the other ones that were voted on, be happy to provide that information to anybody who's interested. Just in closing, I would just have a couple of small requests to whoever keeps the minutes on this on this meeting. But I would really appreciate if the report that I submitted to both boards outlining this project be a part of the minutes so that there will be for future reference in case they're needed. And I also respectfully request that if they're interested, the board representatives that worked with us before remain available as we go forward with this next phase and we apply for these other grants and try to work on some really meaningful plans to make these things happen. So those are my requests.
Is it this document?
Yes.
In here?
Yes.
You want part of the minutes?
I would appreciate that.
And don't worry, trustee Gardner will be more than happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Did you get this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, both boards. Ron Ferguson, top of Mountain Avenue. I am a member of the Highlands Community Flood Resiliency Project, one of the things that Olga had just mentioned, and I just want to give her a round of applause. She's been doing such great work. Reach out to the community, and that's what we have not seen too much of. Now, our numbers are hit or miss here, but we're getting people in there. And one of the major things that we did is that we had a community mapping program, and we asked members of the community to come by and map your flooding areas. What did you see during the major floods that the area has had? Where was the water coming from? What was the damage? We had some really good people come by, fill out these huge maps, provide photos, provide testimony and evidence. And it does show that it's not just the village, it is also the town has suffered from flooding. Okay, I heard the 96 storm, we have the 2011 storm, and of course we have the 2023 storm. Flooding is a major issue, and it's my opinion that it has gone by the wayside, the water management of this area, the flood water management. Some of the things that Olga has been working on and that the community has voted on is the flood resiliency. There is an issue with the water and where it goes. And the project that we are working on, the next phase, will give us grant money to come up with a green way of helping to mitigate that water runoff, especially on village and town properties. Not so much we can do with the private properties, we already know that. But if a private property owner is gonna spend $100,000 on their wall or on their land to fix flooding, the village and the town should at least come and try to help us enhance these grants to work to make sure that the village property and the town property has a proper mitigation. So that way, the next storm that we get, at least the money that the homeowner puts into that private property doesn't get washed away and then not reimbursed. Now they gotta go find more money. And unfortunately, you know what? A lot of us have seen that happen time and time again. After the 2011 storm, I spoke to a lot of people who went by the wayside. I spoke to Jen about, what happened after. You got a lot of things that should have happened, that didn't happen. This is 3 years after the July 9th storm. Something has to happen.
something has to happen, you guys gotta work together to figure that out, use your contacts to reach out to the state, federal officials, that are local, people that we voted for, help us get more funding so we can come up with a way to secure our properties after we spend the money to fix it up. So that way we're not just washed out again. All right, guys, like I said, I'm with the Highland Falls Community Resiliency Project. It's not just the floods, we got other things that we're working on. If you go to our webpage, we do have meetings. If you have been damaged by flood, or you have been damaged by other type of issues, and it's a continuing thing, please let us know. We want to continue mapping. We gotta have evidence and stuff to bring to our state and our local officials. Because if we don't have that, there's not much that we're gonna get done. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Herb Lucy. I wasn't going to come up, but now that Brian brought up the flooding. I've been at my home on Mountain Avenue for 25 years, and one date that we did forget was 2015, which was Hurricane Irene. Now, in my home, where I live, on Hurricane Irene came down. Jimmy, you remember this, and Dave, you also do, and a lot of people inside this room remember Hurricane Irene. It was devastating. Hurricane Irene washed out my property. I was actually on duty on the ambulance corps that day. We were trying to put people inside the firehouse in Highlands Falls. They had cots out and everything else, and somebody came up to me and said, "Merv, you gotta go up and look at your property." I went up there, my wall, my whole retaining wall was gone. It was down, half of my property was washed away into the brook. I tried to get into my home. I walked as much as I could. I could hear the water down into the basement. That was it. There was nothing more I could do. I walked back outside of my home. Actually, I hear one of the pictures of myself made it worth its way all the way out to California on California News. But what happened on that day there, when that storm was all over with, as Brian brought up about the grants and county members and state officials and yada, 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 there was nobody. There was photo ops going on, but that was about it. And what I did after that was put on my gloves. I knew it was gonna be a lot of money to try to get somebody in. I'm blessed with a little bit of knowledge how to repair work like that. I rented a backhoe, I rented some equipment, and I rebuilt everything. That's what I did. Now, as Brian just brought up, we don't want to keep doing this over. Well, on July 9th, it happened again. That water came down and it was gushing. It actually, the bridge that's by my home, it was probably about 3 feet over the top of the bridge. Came down, Mountain Avenue was 4 feet. I had to put both my vehicles across the road. Now, with this year, I knew something was gonna happen again. They got my wall, my retaining wall that I rebuilt in 2015, went back down my property. But the only thing that I said to myself, I gotta get inside my basement, I gotta try to kill the power to my home. When I went down my stairs, I was in the water. I had no reception on my phone because I wanted to call the Highlands Falls Fire Department or somebody or the police and let them know where I was in case something happened. Then I said to myself, what am I doing? I'm down in the water in my room with the power's on. I had probably about 4 feet of water inside my house. Said and done, when this was all over from the July 9th storm, square one. Wall was down, property's down, everything in my basement, my father came up, destroyed. I had again, I wrote letters, if Brian's still here, I wrote letters to the county, I wrote letters to the state, I wrote letters to everybody. But due to my current financial situation, I didn't qualify for anything. That's what it was. FEMA, anything, again, all came out of my pocket. I did the work. Now, my wall is 3 times as thick. I did that, I did everything else. I had plans as I spoke to Mayor DeSalvo and Trustee General there, what I'm gonna do on the side of my home. In conclusion, if anybody's watching the news right now, you can see what's going on down south and out in California. There's some wacky weather going on. So if anybody in this room doesn't think, now you look at the brook right now, it's down. But I've seen that before, and anybody else on Mountain Avenue or in Howard Falls, we've all seen that before. Trust me tonight when I say this to you, there'll be another storm. And when it hits, it's gonna hit us hard, because that's just the thing right now is the wacky weather. In my perspective, what needs to be done, somehow, as I spoke, if you don't mind, Councilman Sullivan, I spoke with Richie, and somehow there has to be some kind of retention, detention, some kind of pond that we can close off when that water's coming down and put into there as a reserve. So that water does not come down on Mountain Avenue as much as it does. And when we talk about Mountain Avenue, water comes down. It doesn't matter where it's going, especially if it's going over the brook, it's gonna spread out like it did. It spread out all the way to Sally, it spread out all throughout the village here, it went all over the place. And the worst thing is right now, before July 9th, a lot of the streams and brooks and everything else, there's new ones now from that storm. So we have to find out where's the new brooks at, where's the new streams at now? Because again, when there's another storm that's going to come, it's gonna be havoc. So unless, and you know this too, trust me, that somehow we have to be able to close off and say, okay, the water's going off this way now. And good luck with that, I appreciate it, thank you.
Hello, everybody, this is Sally Gorsh, 5 Arlington Court, Highland Falls. I have two short things. First of all, I want to say with Olga, the amount of hours that this woman has put in between meetings, Zoom meetings, trying to get everybody together to put these programs together is unbelievable. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of hours. Brian also, he's also portrayed a lot of work as far as the flood resiliency. These people are doing an amazing job. They're trying to help us and they're trying to work with you guys so that in the future, we're all together and then work together and get some real good programs going. That's all I have to say on that one. Second one, considering 4th of July is right around the corner, Jimmy, I have a quick question. A lot of people have been asking me, the flags that we have on Main Street, are we gonna put the state flags up on there before 4th of July or no?
I don't see why not. I would just.
A lot of people have been asking. That's the only reason why I'm asking you tonight.
I'm sure they'll love me for that in the morning, but yeah.
You'll be a great cop. All right, thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Exactly.
Hello, my name is Chris Estradas. I'm at 156 Main Street in Highland Falls. First, I just want to appreciate you guys for bringing fiber to Highland Falls. Sorry for what we're doing, I don't think it's coming there yet, but it's pretty much 1 minute. Second, we talked about vacant lots and eyesores. There's really only, like you said earlier, there's really only 2 ways to get to Main Street, and that's through, I guess, 9W from O'Neill and then 9W from Mountain Avenue. There's a giant eyesore on Mountain Avenue, which is the old elementary school. Do we have any plans, ideas, concept of plans on what we're doing with that? Because I feel like it's been, to my recollection, not used, abandoned in the last 15 years, something like this. And I don't know if the town uses it too, or used to use it to send kids. I'm quite honestly, I'm pretty confused with the town and village, but, so want to address it today.
Sure, the only answer I can give you that is, it's school property, so the school district owns it. I know, pre-COVID, there were some plans and some talk about, creating a environmentally friendly kind of educational place where they kind of train people through a private company or a private business that was gonna go in there and rent or lease or some kind of program. I know that the state senator for us, Senator Skoufis, has worked with earmarking some funds to raise it to the ground for a potential buyer. I know that there's been other potential buyers looking at it. I don't know that any conclusion has come through it. I know the school does have a process in order to get rid of the building. When I sat on the school board, it was kind of something I brought up at the time. But it definitely is, for me anyway, you know, as mayor, I would want to see something there, you know, long-term, at least a plan of something happening. I'm sure the supervisor would too. It's a wasted spot for me personally. I mean, that's the best answer I can
So
give.
it's more like a school district problem. Can we find a school district? I guess that comes from us.
Ooh, I'm sure we probably could come up with some kind of fee schedule. I don't know that we would want to do that.
Okay.
I think the school board does know, that we would like to see something happen there. It's just trying to find the right fit and for them to go through their process. I think they have to declare a surplus building and they have to get the state board of education on board. There is a little bit of moving parts to that. I would just implore them to at least start that process, and at least once they get it surplus, then they need to move on, they can move on. But I don't think there'll ever be a need. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think there'll ever be a need for that building anymore. So I do share a little bit of your frustration.
Jimmy and I were both on the school boards. I was on for about 10 years. I was on the board in 2010 when they went to a contingency budget, which is a terrible, terrible thing to have to go through. So anyway, that building was closed as part of the cuts that we had to make. We had to cut like $450,000. And without making anybody panic, the school, if they want to tear something down, has to adhere to, by asbestos laws, a process called a HERA. I forget what that stands for. In short, that building would cost about $1.5 million to tear down the way the school has to go by it. It has encapsulated asbestos, so it's encapsulated. There's a ton of asbestos in that building, so you can't just blow it up. You know, and I don't want to get the school board mad at me. Personally, if somebody would come give them $1 to take it off their hands at this point, I'm not so sure that's not the way they should go. And one final thing, the field over there, Pickens Field, when they built that school by law, you had to have 5 acres. So what the school district did, there's a building from West Point, I forget what it was called, where it was at. Pickens Field is filled in with a building from West Point. When I was about 3 years old, I can recall riding on my father's bulldozer, filling it in. So I think that's still all one parcel. Am I correct on that, Jimmy? I think Pickens and the school in Mountain Avenue are one parcel, if I'm not mistaken. 5 acres.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I know the Highland Brook.
I know Peter remembers back when they filled in the Pickens Field there. So it's a complicated thing. I remember doing, I forget, it's like 88,000 square feet. I did a whole 52,000 square feet. And an engineer and an architect did a review, what would it cost to bring, it's not ADA compliant. Every single classroom has a bathroom that's about that big. You can't even fit into them. There's no elevator. I feel bad for the school board because they have tried and tried and tried. I think it's a crap building, and I gotta tell you, I'm almost at a point that if it were me, if someone take it for $1, some private developer, go for it.
I'd like to follow up Christmas's comment here. I walk my dog all the time, and I walked over there the other day, and I was walking by, and I noticed the door to the school was, to the building, was kind of open, and I went and I opened it and I walked inside. So this is a big problem. It's a safety hazard. So that needs to go to the school board, I guess, because we need to get rid of the space. It's a safety hazard to our open. And they're able to walk through it.
I know the janitors do still use that for storage, so maybe that's why it was that.
Perhaps, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
open in the evening.
Maybe Chief just follow up.
The doors are locked now. The door? Yeah, the doors are locked now. There was a thing with a bunch of students inside, but it should be locked now.
This was not during the day. This was in the evening at night, so it's just saying.
Yeah, the school's aware. This was like-
Hi. Trevor Burnett, Greenville Parkway, village resident. First of all, want to say thank you to the sanitation department. They probably hated me when I moved in about a year ago. I had offices floor and they hauled them away, no problem. So thank you for that. Kind of on the note of the sanitation, how do our neighboring towns and villages do it? Do we have any, talks with Cornwall or anyone on how they're handling delinquencies or things like that? I know there's some municipalities where once you reach a certain point, your sanitation privileges are revoked until you can pay those fines. And then I'm no lawyer, so I don't know how it goes through the process, but I'm just wondering, is there more maybe we could be doing about that? And then kind of also on the note, right, I'm somewhat of a new resident, but even coming here, I searched the website, trying to figure out what times, what pickups. The information is there, sometimes easy to find, sometimes not. I'm wondering if maybe some funds just around the PSA campaign for both the town and village, flyers, something out in the newspaper, something, or maybe even, just kind of things you can pass on doors to say, hey, you left your thing, or here are the collection hours. Just kind of a reminder to people these things exist. Maybe they forgot about them, maybe they don't realize how much people care, things of that. And then on just a second note, I think in general, as someone who is newer to the town and village, there is definitely a severe issue of communication. So in the terms of unless you're on the right Facebook page at the right time, you miss information. Or there's public meetings like this and people have no idea that it's going on. And of course, we try to push that information and there's only so much we can do. But I'm wondering if we could come together as a town and village and just maybe think of some other ways, an electronic messaging board in the middle of the town, or just like a messaging board in general, some kind of thing where we can do to get this information out there. I really think the most important thing, especially right, how you serve your constituents and things like that, the most important thing is getting people out here to voice their opinions and know that these things are happening. It can get our community engaged before things happen, and we can also represent our population well. So just a whole thought, even when it comes to town events, some kind of thought process maybe from both boards together and collaborative of how can we communicate better to the residents. Because I just feel like we're still kind of missing the mark. Again, I was new to town, I sought the information, but it shouldn't be that hard to find sometimes. But I do think there's a lot that definitely falls within the cracks.
I'll just make a quick note that the message board is coming on Main Street. I'm about 2 steps away from bringing it to the board.
I don't need that. My voice is loud enough. Good evening to everyone. Long-time resident, Mel Jennings, 300 Court, Highlands, New York. My concerns is the young people. And my thing is, I grew up in a community with Irish, Italians. We were quite close in community. And we have a gym here. I believe in Save Park Gym. And I know the center is always looking for somewhere to have extracurricular activity with the students. And my concern is, I grew up with Mickey Cahill. Mickey Cahill just attended to the teenagers. He grew me. And Mickey Cahill became in charge of the state troopers. But he always had time to be with the teenagers. So I'm saying we need to take these kids off the street. The Kids See Peace Bill, has a program where they have the kids come and we meet twice a week. We do that with young kids. They have meetings and they go take them swimming. West Point has a brand new swimming pool. There was a time when the teenage group also to go to West Point and the teen club there. Why can't we have something for these young kids to keep off the street and make them be honorable for life and learn something? Ethics, morals. These things are needed. It helped me along the way as I grew up. It educated me. That people that came around and helped me Where's the love anymore? It's gone. Don't just walk by and let them go and do things that they shouldn't do at 1 or 2 o'clock. I'm in the village, I'm in the hood, as I say. So let's try to do something as a community. You don't have that so much in Fort Montgomery, but in the village, as you already said, you have twice as many people. I concur with you, Mr. Lady, and I met you before, on what you said. We have to build up. This is your future. This is young people. It's not me anymore. We need your help together. Come together. Bring something. Mr. Ford. It's Mr. Ford. He works in the community with the recreation. Bring these kids together. Have fun. You gotta make yourselves available to them too, Lord. And village members, come, talk to them. Let them be somebody. Like I said, don't talk about it, be about it. So that's what I come for, because it hits my heart so much. Also, one last thing. I live 1 block off Main Street. They said they can't get the big trucks in there. They can get big trucks in there. Because it's going back to what you just said. People, I live behind apartment buildings. So what do? They pile garbage after garbage after garbage after garbage, and it sits there. Come on, man. I'm a hard-working man. So I don't want to look out my window and see all the trash that's coming from the other apartments, and they just, other people are coming in and just keep piling on, piling on, piling on, piling on. You get tired of that thing. That's all I'm saying. I've been here serving over 60 years. I'm a community man. So I'm just telling you from my heart. Help the community. That's what people did back in the day. Now people don't want to be bothered with the community. We need you. Thank you for coming together. I'm glad there's no more separation. And togetherness, we shall overcome many problems here. And we need you. Thank you for my time. Appreciate you. Got there early in the morning. Thank you.
Mr. Cahill is my older brother. Little history on Village Hall. Village Hall belonged to First National Bank, which became Great Midland Bank, which is a key bank building that's empty down the road. They built that Village Hall, was gifted to the Village of Highland Falls, so they didn't pay anything for it. And it was vacant for a couple of years. So Teddy Fikes, my brother Mick, Tommy Sullivan, and a few people who ran a teen club, because we talked about Highland Falls having 27 bars. Well, that's not where kids are gonna be hanging out. So the teen club was a true opportunity for them. And Mallard was one of the, they all knew I was only 12 years old. They didn't want me there, but they put up with me anyway. So that's what he was referring to.
Good evening. Ron Malkat, Happy Avenue in Highland Falls. Before I start, I just want to thank the 2 boards for getting together and seeing where we don't have agreements on the recreation or sanitation and how to increase our services, how to tighten up codes, how to increase the quality of life in the village and the town. Appreciate the 2 boards getting together. What I'd like to say is we're an isolated community. We are very different from the rest of Orange County. We're not in the Orange County water loop. We're so isolated. We have 2 neighbors, Bear Mountain and West Point. I'm not counting Black Rock Forest or the Hudson River. And we don't have any industry except tourism. What we are is a residential community. And I'd like both boards to look at the residential zoning. There's a lot of, I was in front of the consolidated planning board meeting, and a developer came in with a planned residential development. And well, they couldn't approve it because there's nothing in the codes about planned residential development. I don't think there's anything in the codes about HUDs. There's nothing in the codes about accessory dwelling units. where someone can take their two-car garage and turn it into an apartment. I mean, we are a residential community. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great place to raise a family, and with more residents, our local businesses will thrive even more. I want to see our local businesses make money. I want the diner in town. I want the Fort Dell, the Fort Storage, bars and restaurants that are locally owned in town to make money. They belong to the Chamber of Commerce. The Dunkin' Donuts, the Chipotle, McDonald's, they won't join the Chamber of Commerce. So you'll be helping the business community to increase residential population. So please take a look at those zoning regulations and come up with solutions to improve the community. Thanks for listening.
Can I say something? There's nobody else. In Fort Montgomery, fast as American burrito, is there any way to put a speed bump? The other day I was driving, guy was coming down the turn. He was going so fast, there was a kid right there on his bike. Good thing the kid jumped up on the sidewalk. Is there any way to slow people down there?
Chief Burns has an officer sitting there a lot. That's a pretty good speed bump, but, I think he's familiar with what you're talking about.
There's a lot of kids that live up.
I think the chief can speak to this. There's some regulatory guidance on what type of road it is. If it's a state versus local road, there's requirements to be able to get that speed bump. Chief can speak to that.
And also I had another comment, just public comment. Volunteers, in our community, there was a Hope Rocks event recently, Family Fun Day. All those different events are held by volunteers. They're not getting paid anything to be doing that. Community participation would be a great thing to see at these events that these people are putting their hard-earned time into. That's all I have.
Anyone else, public comment? Danny?
I think you're right, having recreation, for me, I think it would be the nicest thing to see a senior teen program, and it used to be that way. So my question is, the center itself is a building on Main Street. Is that center providing any monetary surplus from the village or the town? It's an not-for-profit organization, correct?
Yes. The answer is yes, that the center, founded in 2014, Executive Director Ann Molina, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, was contracted by the town to do programs for senior citizens at a rate of about $433 a month, which equals about $5,000 a year. Is that about right? Okay, so then that equals out to about $10.85 an hour for 10 hours a week. So that is the entity that does programming, different from this building that was purchased by a grant for the village that has other things happening to different things.
So, and in the village, the Highlanders is the senior, correct? And this building was actually purchased for them. For them, it was purchased. It was purchased for the senior citizen group that solicited, the town and the village to try to help get them a place where they could move. It shouldn't mean that a senior and a child shouldn't be able to get together and enjoy each other's company. But I guess my question is, if money from the town or the village are going into even the center, and I'm curious because the Highlanders were around for 50 years. So the Highlanders are under the village, and the center was designed for the town, correct? I mean,
So let me clear that one up. Here's what really occurred back then, because I was liaison back then. So the Highlanders as a club, right, which were operating out of the senior center, open to anybody, as far as I can know, to join. In fact, when I retired from the Army, I tried to join them, but I was 50, they said I was too young. So, but they were doing great things. But what we found as a town board is that many people were not coming to that club. So to address some of the issues with the community at large, the town says, center, could you do programming for everyone to include the Highlanders if they want to participate? So not to take anything away from anybody with the Highlanders, because that was, it still is a phenomenal program. But it was more or less a club that I think, I don't know if there was a fee to join the club or whatever, but it was a nominal, small fee back then, $1, whatever. You know, my mother, who's now 91, has been a member for a long time of the Highlanders. So, but the center itself is talking about who else is out there in the community.
Oh, absolutely. So I think my point is that we have a building on Main Street that is, who owns that building? I mean, the center pays the rent, correct?
Right. You already moved, what, 3 times?
Yeah. So I don't know who owns the building, but they rent their.
So whoever, I mean, they're paying rent to someone, and we have an underutilized building right here. It makes no sense to me why those programs can't work together. I know why they can't work together. It's personalities. It has nothing to do with money or the structure or the chairs or the tables. It's people not being able to get along with each other. That is what I've seen myself. However, you know, we have a building now, we could take that building and provide another, you know, we have too many services on Main Street. I think that's the problem. We are a tourist community. I'm sorry, Mr. Bowenkamp, we really are. We always have been. When Lady Cliff was here in college, West Point and Lady Cliff were considered the colleges of the community. You know, Lady Cliff is gone, and the nuns in Peekskill decided to sell that property to the government. And that decision was made through the Archdiocese without it ever getting on the public rolls. Nobody should be stupid to think otherwise.
There was a period of time where when it wasn't a college, the village sued them for that taxes during that period of time. I have copies of the paper. So for a period of time, for a year, when it wasn't a college and West Point didn't have it, they tried, Mary Zeta tried to get that money. They failed, but they tried.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I just, you know what, I just think, like I said, there's so many, this is wonderful having the 2 boards together. I've never seen like a group this in 40+ years. There's always been, you know, the proverbial axe handles that come flying through the room, and I'm happy to see that that's not happening now. So
That's after 10. We don't do that till 10.
This is not, just to correct, I think this is, you know, we're at a prime time in the community, like it or not. The village is in disarray, Main Street is in disarray. It's not a surprise to anyone. It's not the fault of anyone, particularly in this room. But something needs to break. I mean, we're seeing an influx of properties that are going to continue to come off our tax rolls royally, and that concerns me greatly. I live in Fort Montgomery, however, I have a business in the village. I'm a community, I'm a member of the town of Highlands, which includes all of us. And my grandchildren are the 6th generation
to live on our property. And, you know, if I don't fight for what's happening up in this village, including the school, and that building on Mountain Avenue is an albatross. It needs to go. The village, the school board can make the decision, yes, through the state. They're not going to say to them, oh, continue to pay that money on that building. No, you need to keep it. I find that hard to believe. And it really comes down to the taxpayers. We're the ones that get to choose. At the end of the day, that vote comes to this people, whether that building gets sold or taken down or whatever happens to it. And I think we're at a really good time to get a lot of good things going, and I hope that we can keep this momentum up. But I'm really curious about like saving the money, even the contributions coming, slight as they may be, and have this building utilized properly. Thank you.
Steve, just to clarify, I believe it was 2015, 2016 was when we contracted originally with the center to provide recreational activities for adults and seniors, and that was because the Highlands Senior Club was a private organization that you couldn't be part of unless you paid dues. And we had a lot of older seniors and adults that either couldn't afford them, didn't want to pay them, or they didn't offer those services during the time frame, like, you know, after 5, 6, or 5 to 9. So that's where the contract with the center started. I know in my 10 years here, the town has formally made 2 offers to the village to run programs for seniors, not only seniors, but kids out of this building. That was, I don't want to say denied, but not moved on. So that's why, part of the reason why this building is not going to be, not maybe for lack of trying. I'm hoping maybe the boards come together to help alleviate that. But having this building available to teenagers in the evening, on the weekend, even 8 to 4 during the day, having an office here that just has open for people that want to come and sit here and watch TV together. The possibilities are endless. I put multiple proposals together to make that happen. It's just never been acted upon, so looking forward to maybe a change in direction in that aspect.
Aaron, before you go, somebody gonna talk about 4th of July stuff coming up? To wrap it up. So, 4th of July events that are coming up in the community, right? So you said tomorrow, I saw your note that tomorrow, because we're coming up on a couple of the hottest days of the year, there will be some calls. Hopefully, all events will be able to go on as scheduled.
That's the goal.
Yes, but watch, I guess, so Facebook, because that's usually a pretty good place to go, but there are several places, but 4th of July has a page, but the town will also put out, like on the town page, what's gonna happen, what may have to be altered for times, any events that may have to be canceled, hopefully not. But you said tomorrow we'll start talking about that. And Jim was talking about, that we,
At least the hydration stations are supposed to send the business.
Right.
Sending it to Village Hall just to have.
Right.
During the parade route, all over those parties.
so hopefully it'll be good, stay hydrated if you're gonna come out to any events, be smart about it. We don't want to have Mr. Gathers have to come out and pick you up off the ground, although he will if needed.
So we did put a message out there on social media. I'm sure that the village hasn't seen it now. You're going to work with the sheriff, I can send it to the post. We're keeping an eye on, especially Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where it's going to be extreme heat. We're working on extended pool hours, just for people to be able to go cool off and swim. But as far as individual activities, we'll make those calls as we are able to. We'll give people plenty of notice as far as rescheduling, postponing, canceling. A lot of things like the conference on July 2nd, those are easy, non-strenuous, you know, people sitting there, sitting on one chair and enjoying some music. That's good. I know we've already canceled the 4th of July Youth Baseball Classics because that's prime time to heat and you know, kids out there falling out. But hopefully, it's not my decision, it's a committee decision for the 4th of July committee to make. But we will be putting information out there probably in the next 24 to 36 hours as far as individual activities that can be postponed all the schedule adjusted. The goal is to get everything going as planned. We just want to keep safety in the forefront, so.
And those activities are, so Thursday, at Road Park, starting at 5:30 PM, right? Everything's
Yes.
happening at Road Park, including the band, a little bit later on, the cookout.
Yeah, so Thursday, I can speak for, the only thing that's up here is the fire department tug of war. I'm hoping we can get that going. We have a big trophy for the winner. We're gonna start having moving forward as far as, like the winner of which fire department can keep the trophy in their department for the year. That's the only thing I think right now that's up in the air for Thursday. Friday, as far as the bed races, that's a little more tricky. But we do have a block party that's scheduled to be on Main Street, after that, so. We're gonna take it day by day, what's going on. Saturday was a little bit better as far as the parade, it's gonna be still a little hot, but not too much, so, Wednesday and Thursday are, Friday are big concerns, so we'll discuss that and implement that as we finalize.
You guys coming for the cookout, because somebody asked me if they.
Any food welcome?
Yeah, somebody asked me.
We're gonna have hamburgers, hot dogs, water, chips, things like that, for free anyway, so, so anything you want to do. Any questions for recreational welfare?
I would just, for Fourth of July, just maybe look in with the fire departments, just in case, the fireworks have already started. The day of and the fourth, the actual fourth, not the fireworks, but if it's been dry for the last 2 weeks or week and a half or so, just to hook them in and let them know that if anything's gonna change or.
Yeah, I don't know what the protocol is on that, but I'm
Well,
sure
usually,
that,
usually the fire department's there for standby stuff, but,
definitely take those.
yeah, maybe, just in case none of them get hurt during the tug of war, we may need it, so, just loop in the chiefs. Highland Falls is primary, but then Fourth, backs up, so, maybe we'll have an extra truck or something, I don't know, just in case.
May I make one more comment just about what has happened recently? Kind of ties all this together. Saturday, many of us were at the library. Alina, Ginny, Bob, Richie, and myself, and other people that were in this room, and the mayor was there as well, participated in reciting the Declaration of Independence. It was so absolutely moving. Stacy from the library got us, we were in there and helped make that happen, along with the Historical Society, and there were 30-something of us that recited the Declaration of Independence, and Alex Virgintis, thank you, accompanied us on the cello. It was one of the most moving things, and I didn't expect to be moved as I was. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't expect to be as moved as I was, and the thing at the end is, so everybody stands up and sings God Bless America. And I know that all those people in that group, many of whom I would probably not be able to agree with on much, still all together, and I'm going to sit here and cry about it, but sat there and sang God Bless America. At the end of that, it was really a singular kind of outstanding moment. And so Richie, will we be able to see it? I know you were taping it.
I'm working on that,
So-
okay?
So editing is underway, but several people have recorded parts of it that have shown up on social media, so.
Once I get it, it'll be on YouTube, on Ministry, so.
It was really an outstanding event. So if you get a chance, check it out, and happy Independence Day to us all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, so we just talked about fireworks, and the fireworks that we're gonna have that are done by professionals. I'm gonna ask both chiefs to be vigilant with their departments, because it's gonna be extremely dry, that you just all heard that private fireworks going off out there can create a very big problem in the village and town. When they're exploding or not exploding all the way above people's houses, it can be a problem. So I would just hope that both chiefs this year will be on top of their departments. And I don't care what you gotta do, lock them up, whatever, we just don't need that type of man, so, thank you guys.
Does anybody have anything else to say? I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know I said enough already, but you're going to hear more anyway. So I am the eternal optimist. I see opportunities, not obstacles. I've always been that way. I've always believed in Highland Falls. You had the owner of the Park Restaurant die, and then the guy from Shades retired. That was bad fortune. And that's kind of what started the whole restaurant thing and whatnot. When I was a boy, and Norman will remember, we would cut school, go watch the Mets play Army up there. Well, you cut school too. And anyway, on the way back, there was a swimming pool right up here at the barracks, a south swimming pool. We were welcome to jump right in that thing. The gentleman who was here before, Mallard Jennings, we used to go into the West Point gym when I was 13 years old. Mr. Donaldson was a guard. He would let us in. It was much more accommodative. I'm not saying that they're being obstinate. Highland Falls was its own entity. We had a dress shop, we had a movie theater, we had a shoe store, we had food, we had the Hub Market, the bowling alley was down there. Nancy is a product of the bowl, all that stuff. And that went away, not because of any one person's fault or whatnot. Maybe West Point taking Lady Cliff had something to do with it. I don't really know. So here we are. And I think it's a waste of time to be mad at people over things. Fort Montgomery, I was on the planning board back in 2009, whatever it was. We had a new master plan. You drive through Fort Montgomery, the road is a little bit bumpy. The only building that's empty is a bagel cafe. There's good businesses down there. There's a restaurant. The old Oak burned down, Bear Mountain Pizza. They came back within a year. They're in there. You have Jason D'Onofrio's Deli down there. There's Dunkin' Donuts. It's a shame. The car dealership has been there for 60 years, a very successful car dealership. I could go on and on and on. It's not a main street, it's a main highway. But aside from that, that is a product of our work planning for that community. So if the Village of Highland Falls goes forward, they have all the help in the world from me on anything they want to do. I applaud that. You don't need to change your zoning every 5 minutes. Be solid with something and go with it. And that's all I have to say.
I usually don't. I just have to say something. I'm Jeanette Scott, I'm the newly elected president of the Highlanders. I just want to reiterate 2 things. We don't charge any dues, and we never have charged dues. The New York State regulation does not allow us to charge dues. Tuesday through Friday right now, we have activities that go on in and outside of the building. Our July calendar will be out tomorrow. We have a new website that is being implemented, which I started. And I want to say thank you to Annie for helping out and just let's all get together and make this work. Now, seniors need a place too. I'm a very young senior, but these seniors need a place. And it touches me like Niagara off, but we need this too. Thank you.
And more to your point, Nancy, like you were saying, in that room you were in, you may not have agreed, but at the end of the day, what I have seen in 45 plus years is not what I see today, though. I mean, everybody always did that. Today, I have lost acquaintances over a difference of opinion. Please, that should never be. I have known most of the people in this room a very long time, and it breaks my heart to think that my opinion, if it's not yours, would cost you to give me a dirty look or ignore me. Please don't do that. That's not what we're built at. That's not what this town is about. And you're right, Rich, that's about the town of Highlands, Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, all of
I don't
us.
want anybody else to be in that part of the building, you know what I mean?
Thank
If
you.
anyone on the town board or village board would like to make a motion?
I'll make that.
Before you do, I thought it was gonna get.
You're supposed to do the motion.
I thought it was gonna come back to me at some point, but I wanted to say that I met on Friday with several people for the emergency management disaster preparedness new committee that we developed. And then monthly, we're going to be going forward. But in that meeting was the chief of police here, Joe Burns. He was a representative from Orange County Vicky Lee, says he came from Highlands Falls. And, we had the captain back there, Jeff Gathers, we had, Greg Marr from the town's, superintendent of the highways. We had, trustee Mula over there, who, co-chaired with me this particular meeting. And, Kurt Hahn, who's our, disaster preparedness coordinator, was also present in that meeting. And then we had one representative from the, his name was Eric, can't remember the last name, from the fire department. Okay. So that was just a start point. And in that meeting, we identified, besides the flood of 3 years ago, which we know is we're now at risk for those types of things, even more so than in the past. But we talked about fire, and we talked about cold weather tragedies, right? Like we had a whole highway, if not more than that, shut down completely a few years ago during the winter time. So we've identified these things that put us at risk, and now we're putting the systems in place to mitigate those particular risks. One of the biggest things was a structure and command and control. When the crap hits the fan, who talks to who? Right now, we have identified a situation where, in some cases, radio frequencies are so different that we can't even communicate with one another. Secondly, if we have to set up a command and control point, where's the generators and all these type of things, but we're flushing those things out. I have some minutes from that meeting, and I'll shoot to the mayor and the supervisor, as well as the rest of the board members. And then we'll be a bigger meeting at some point where we invite everybody in to do these type of conversations. I just wanted you all to know that it's not lost on us. We're gonna have 4 days this week that would be considered a high hazard, as everybody has just mentioned. So some of the things that you talked about, we put some measures in place. So that is all I have for tonight. Subject to anybody's questions, but if you want to talk more about this, you can always check.
Just check the email you have for Eric Smith, because I don't know, I think maybe one letter was left off or something, he didn't get it, he wasn't there, and he just was concerned he missed.
That was my error, essentially.
Oh. Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Second.